In early June, El Salvador's president Nayib Bukele made a big announcement.
That is why next week, I will send to Congress a bill that will make Bitcoin a legal tender in El Salvador.
Speaking to an opulent gathering of Bitcoin fanatics in Miami, Bukele said his country would be the first in the world to accept Bitcoin as national currency. People were shocked. Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency that's lost nearly half its value in just the last few weeks. We've been running an experiment with Bitcoin. 3,000 people live here, and the only ATM in town is a Bitcoin ATM. Just before the president's announcement,
Necesito hacer unas compras ahorita, Marcos. Necesito $2 de huevo, cebolla, tomate, chile verde. ¿Chile verde? Sí.
¿Donas también?
Sí.
¿Con cuál aplicación?
Bitcoin Beach. Sí.
this is Milton Cabrera. He's a construction worker in El Zonte who gets paid in Bitcoin.
50.
And he says it's changed his life.
Lo prefiero porque igual de una manera u otra el Bitcoin, si lo recibo en cash, en mis manos, se gasta rápido. En cambio, si lo recibo en Bitcoin, puedo sacar lo que necesito y dejo aguardado un poco. En esa forma puedo mantenerme ahorrando y gastando lo necesario nada más. Sí, igual lo podemos ocupar para pagar la electricidad, agua, igual poder comprar lo básico en la comida, en las tiendas, igual no tengo que estar viajando lejos. Igual lo puedo hacer aquí en las tiendas, más fácil. Tal vez sí, pero igual en la forma de que uno ha conocido Bitcoin, se pone a estudiarlo, de tarde o temprano va a bajar, de tarde o temprano va a subir. Igual no tendría, sí entra un temor, pero igual si tiene paciencia uno esperando, puede subir y tal vez obtener ganancias.
Magically appeared in El Zonte. In late 2019, an anonymous American donated about 12 Bitcoins worth at least 6 figures to create a new crypto economy. The idea was for everyone in this town to use Bitcoins for all their purchases. The founders of the Bitcoin Beach organization created a Bitcoin wallet, then started convincing people to use it.
Okay, that's it.
Cold brew with Bitcoin, brother.
Cheers.
Welcome to Bitcoin Beach.
Essentially used interchangeably in El Zonte. But Strike is available nationally, and the company seems to be trying to tap into El Salvador's $4.5 billion a year remittance market. The app gives users options to send either Bitcoin or dollars to each other. When I signed up, the app prompted me to deposit money with a debit card or bank account. Sending Bitcoin was less user-friendly than dollars. So when folks in El Zonte pull out their phones to make digital payments, they aren't necessarily using Bitcoin. And whether it's the Strike app or the Bitcoin Beach wallet, there are still kinks in the system.
Bitcoin me sirve como un ahorro, pero hay veces que prefiero a veces así el efectivo.
Sí.
The Bitcoin hub in El Zonte is the ATM, and it's not just used by locals. This guy drives for 2 hours to convert his Bitcoin to cash.
Have there been times when you...
Aquí se ha hecho realidad lo que apostamos.
Bueno.
The face of Bitcoin Beach is an American surfer who's lived in El Salvador for years. When the anonymous donor came calling in September 2019, he says he saw it as an opportunity to create new jobs, keep kids out of gangs. Now, it's bigger than he could have imagined. The anonymous donor's identity is still a mystery. I asked the CEO of Strike if it's him. He said no.
No es una persona que no conocemos. Solo no es una persona que nosotros podemos estar diciéndole a todas las personas quién es, ya que hoy en día tener dinero, alguien quiere afectar tu vida o algo. Ahora es un boom en la comunidad, no tenemos que darle cuenta si funcionó o no. El Bitcoin se quedó por la comunidad. Sí, hay muchas personas diciendo que es una estafa. Hay estafas en todas áreas. Entonces este solo... Creo que solo las personas que tal vez no les guste el Bitcoin están empujando más para hacer creer esto, pero al final del día, cuando le descargas a una persona su wallet, le pones una porción. Si Bitcoin fuera malo, yo no quisiera andar en la calle.
Sí.
No, Bitcoin está cambiando a pasos gigantes las comunidades.
President Bukele is going all in on cryptocurrency, even suggesting the country could use the energy from volcanoes to mine Bitcoin. Skeptics worry it's all just a big distraction from corruption in his autocratic government. We spoke to Bukele's Minister of Tourism about what's happening in the area around El Zonte.
Así que estamos trabajando de la mano junto con el presidente Bukele. El presidente Bukele nos está dirigiendo en este gran proyecto que se llama Surf City, que Surf City es más que un lugar, es un circuito de playas. Yo también tengo que cambiar y definitivamente me impresionó y me sorprendió cuando voy al Zonte, a Playa El Zonte, y veo que puedo comprar una paleta o una pupusa o una charamusca, todos esos son platos típicos de aquí, a través de Bitcoin. Definitivamente la innovación y la digitalización que podemos tener en toda esta parte económica para las poblaciones más necesitadas es vital.
Cuando necesito pagar mi recibo, le tomo tal vez una foto, la mando a quien me lo va a cancelar y le pago a él, a su usuario. Vengo, pongo el usuario, que es, qué sé yo, y lo envío y ahí ya lo tengo pagado. Tendría que, en lo que voy en el bus, posiblemente una hora, tal vez una hora de espera en el puerto, tal vez unas 3 horas para poderlo pagar.
This is where El Salvador's Bitcoin experiment began. El Zonte, a small surf town where 3 years ago an anonymous donor gave local people digital wallets with a bit of the cryptocurrency. Now the country's expanding the experiment nationwide. El Salvador's about to become the first country in the world to use Bitcoin as legal tender. It will run as another option alongside the current currency, the US dollar. We travelled to El Zonte to find out how the pilot program has gone and what it could mean for the rest of the country. We found plenty of enthusiasts. David's like 70% of people in El Salvador. He doesn't have a bank account. His Bitcoin wallet's a way for him to put some money aside.
I have a low income. I don't move much money. The little I have, I spend on food. So with Bitcoin, I can save up.
And as the Bitcoin's gone up in value, he's seen his small savings grow too. The problem is that Bitcoin swings down as well, at times heavily. Other people here are fed up with that.
It's tough because it's unstable. For example, if you take a surf class and pay with Bitcoin, I can accept it. But the next day it goes down, and there are losses for me. It's the same for the bar, the shop, everywhere.
And imagine that volatility nationwide in one of the poorest countries in the Americas. It can make the government's decision seem like a blind bet. A recent survey shows many people here might not take that bet. 2/3 say they don't want to be paid in Bitcoin, and the facilities the government's hurriedly putting together for the new currency might not convince them.
One of the advantages of Bitcoin is the anonymity, but for regulators that's one of the risks. So the worry is that El Salvador turns into a fiscal paradise for those who want to launder money from drugs or corruption.
The president has been emphasizing the positives. Bitcoins will bring jobs, financial inclusion and investment, he says, especially as El Salvador will be the first to use it. The question is, will the country become a trailblazer or simply sink?
John Holman,
Al Jazeera, El Zonte, El Salvador.
Repealed, so there is quite a bit of skepticism of it on the ground. I also think there's a pretty large financial education learning curve. El Salvador is not a country that has a lot of its citizens using the traditional banking system. Cash is still king in El Salvador. When you bring in this sort of new technology like cryptocurrency, there is sort of a hesitancy and there is sort of some pushback at first. We are seeing a lot of people that are skeptical on the ground. There were a lot of questions this morning with the Chivo wallet. People couldn't download.
An institution on overseas exchanges pile into derivatives products for futures in products that maybe they didn't necessarily know or were funding correctly. And there was a leverage waterfall. And so cascading liquidations happened this morning. Now, what I really interesting is that this was very much like a bullish bear day. And so we saw that bounce back really quickly. So as was discussed earlier, we dropped down to 44. We're now at a support level of 47. I still think we're very much nearing that 60K mark. And so we're continuing to see a lot of, I think,